picture your browser right now. Or, I mean, if you're driving or walking, just kind of visualize it in your mind.
Yeah, that terrifying mental image.
Right. You've probably got, what, like a dozen tabs open?
At least.
An inbox that's just
Yeah.
constantly refreshing in the background.
Yeah.
Your phone is, face up on the desk, lighting up every few minutes. And maybe you've even got a smartwatch physically tapping your wrist to remind you to, like, stand up or breathe or whatever.
It's constant barrage.
It really is.
Yeah.
So you sit down to do one task, just one single important thing, and suddenly you blink, and 2 whole hours have vanished.
Oof. Gone.
Exactly. And you're reading about, I don't know, celebrity real estate or watching a video of a raccoon eating grapes. And you just feel completely exhausted, but you haven't actually accomplished anything.
Yeah, the classic modern predicament.
So if that sounds familiar, welcome. Today, we are doing a custom deep dive just for you on a phenomenon we basically all battle every single day, which is overstimulation.
It truly is. I mean, the defining struggle of our current era. We are trying to navigate a world that is practically engineered to fracture our attention.
Yeah.
And the toll it takes on our daily lives is just immense.
And our guide for this deep dive is Abe Wood's incredibly eye-opening book, How Overstimulation is Destroying Your Life.
It was such a good read.
Oh, it's fantastic. But listen, we are not just going to list off, generic productivity hacks today, like drink more water, put your phone away.
Right, we've all heard those a million times.
Exactly. We want to get under the hood.
Yeah.
We're going to look really closely at the biological hardware of the human brain to figure out exactly why it rebels against focus in the modern world.
Which is fascinating stuff.
And, well, more importantly, how you can actually take back control of your time, your energy, and your attention. So, okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because I want to start by just validating the sheer exhaustion the listener's probably feeling right now.
That is honestly the perfect place to start. Because if you feel like you can't focus, it is crucial to understand that it's not a personal failing. You are not broken. You are dealing with a full-blown epidemic here. To put this in perspective, Gallup recently put out their State of the Global Workplace report.
All right.
And they measured employee engagement worldwide. They found that an overwhelming 85% of employees struggle to fully engage with their work.
Wait, 85%.
85.
That is a staggering majority of the global workforce just like mentally checking out.
Yeah, and there is a massive economic consequence to that, as you can imagine. The cost of that disengagement is estimated at $7 trillion forfeited annually.
$7 trillion.
$7 trillion worldwide just due to lost productivity.
That number is almost too big to even visualize. I mean, it sounds made up.
It does.
But it actually starts to make sense when you look at the daily friction we experience. Like, Wood cites this study from the University of California, Irvine, that I found just fascinating.
Well, the interruption study.
Yes. It measured what happens when we get distracted.
Right. They tracked office workers and found that when you are interrupted, say, by just a quick text or random email notification, it takes an average of just over 23 minutes to return to a state of deep focus on your original task.
That blows my mind.
Yeah.
Like 23 minutes lost because of one tiny buzz on my phone.
One buzz.
Why does it take so long? I mean, what is actually happening in the brain during those 23 minutes?
Well, it comes down to how your brain handles working memory.
Okay.
When you are deep into a project, your brain has loaded this massive amount of context into its active workspace. Like it's holding variables, ideas, short-term goals.
It's firing on all cylinders.
Exactly. So when you look away to read a text message, your brain literally has to dump that context to process the new information.
Wow.
And when you turn back to your work, you don't just instantly pick up where you left off.
Because the workspace is empty.
Right. Your brain has to painstakingly pivot, reload the original context back into your working memory, and kind of get back up to speed.
It makes me think of a really busy restaurant kitchen. Like, imagine you're a chef cooking this complex Italian dish.
Oh, I like this.
You've got all your ingredients out, the pans are hot, you're totally in the zone, and then someone just bursts in and says, quick, make a sushi roll.
Right.
You have to clear the entire counter, put away the pasta, get out the rice and the raw fish, make the sushi, and then when they leave, you have to clean it all up again and completely reset your station just to get back to the Italian dish.
That is a brilliant way to visualize it, because you are burning actual cognitive energy just clearing and resetting the counter.
But wait, I have to push back here on behalf of, like, a lot of people listening.
Sure.
Because so many people swear they are naturally great at multitasking. They really think they can cook the pasta and roll the sushi at the exact same time.
Yeah.
So why can't we just train our internal chef to work faster and handle both?
Yeah, that is a very common defense. But
Yeah.
we basically need to completely dismantle the myth of multitasking. It biologically does not exist in the way we think it does. The human brain cannot actually think actively about more than one complex thing at a time.
Really?
Really. What we proudly call multitasking is actually just rapid task switching.
So we are just forcing the chef to bounce between the pasta and the sushi really, really fast.
Over and over again, you are rapidly switching your active focus. And every single time you pivot, your brain has to use processing power to reorient itself.
Oh, wow.
It's like a computer processor maxing out its CPU.
Right.
This leads directly to cognitive overload.
Right.
Your central nervous system becomes highly reactive. That is exactly why after a day of answering emails while trying to write a report, you feel so stressed, panicked, and irritable.
You aren't working faster.
No, you're just exhausting your nervous system.
Which brings up a question that I think really gets to the core of this whole book. If rapid task switching is so exhausting and it physically feels so bad to be stressed out and overloaded, why do we constantly seek out these distractions?
Yeah.
Like, why do I actively choose to pull my phone out of my pocket when I'm trying to work?
Well, the answer actually doesn't lie in our modern technology. It lies in evolutionary biology.
Okay, color me intrigued.
Our brains are hardwired for a world of scarcity that simply doesn't exist anymore. To understand why we crave distraction, we have to look at this concept called supernormal stimulation.
Oh, I am so glad we are getting into this.
Yeah.
Because the book talks about this Nobel-winning researcher named Nicholas Tinbergen.
Yes.
He studied animal behavior, and his experiments absolutely floored me. But I want you to break it down because it sounds almost like science fiction. Did he really prove that biology will choose a fake reward over a real one?
He absolutely did. So Tinbergen wanted to know if animals could be tricked by artificial replicas of the things they naturally desired, provided those replicas were exaggerated. So he conducted an experiment with birds. He gave them a choice. They could sit on their own natural, normal-sized eggs.
Right.
Or they could sit on these fake eggs that he had created, and he made the fake eggs much larger and painted them with incredibly bright, bold, contrasting colors.
And the birds actually chose the fake ones.
They didn't just choose them, they completely obsessed over them.
You're kidding.
No, they literally sat on these giant, brightly painted pieces of wood and completely abandoned their real eggs.
That's insane.
They abandoned their own genetic lineage for a synthetic illusion simply because the artificial stimulus was bolder and bigger than reality.
Wow.
And he did the same thing with butterflies. He created these wooden females with exaggerated markings.
Let me guess.
Yep. The male butterflies tried to mate with the wooden models, completely ignoring the real females fluttering right next to them.
See, here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Because the author points out that we are those birds.
We really are.
Like, we look at that experiment and think, oh, the animals are so foolish. But human beings are doing the exact same thing today.
We are. Our entire environment is filled with carefully engineered stimuli designed to hijack our brain's reward system.
So let's talk about how that actually works under the hood. The book mentions the ventral tegmental area, or the VTA, and dopamine pathways.
Right.
For those of us who aren't neuroscientists, what is the VTA actually doing? Like, can you give us a plain English translation?
Definitely. Think of the VTA as your brain's internal hype man.
Hype man. I love that.
Right. It connects the primal, survival-focused parts of your brain to your frontal cortex, which is the part that handles your logic and decision-making.
Okay.
And it communicates using dopamine. Now, we often think of dopamine as the chemical that gives us pleasure, but it's really the chemical of anticipation.
Wait, so it's not the reward itself, it's the craving for the reward.
Yes, that is a vital distinction. Dopamine signals the anticipation of a reward to motivate you to take action.
Okay, that makes sense.
So in a hunter-gatherer world of extreme scarcity, if you saw a berry bush in the distance, your VTA, your hype man, would release a huge spike of dopamine to give you the energy to walk all the way over there and get the food.
Right.
But crucially, once you eat the berries and the biological need is met, the dopamine shuts off.
But I'm guessing the modern fake eggs we interact with don't have an off switch.
That is the real danger of supernormal stimuli. They are engineered to keep that anticipation loop running indefinitely.
Just constantly hyping us up.
Exactly. They provide a quick, shallow hit of dopamine that keeps you hungry for more, but they never actually provide the deep, lasting satisfaction that tells your brain, okay, we have enough, you can stop now.
When you explain it like that, it just hits me that app developers and, like, junk food companies
Yeah.
are essentially playing the role of Nicholas Tinbergen.
They absolutely are.
They're actively exploiting our biology. So if we are the birds sitting on the fake eggs, what are the giant, brightly painted fake eggs we are abandoning our real lives for today?
Well, there are several major ones, and the statistics Wood provides are honestly sobering.
Yeah.
Television is a classic example. We tell ourselves it's a way to unwind, but the average adult watches over 5 hours of television a day.
5 hours a day.
Yes. And if you aggregate that, it equates to 77 days a year spent in a totally passive state.
77 days just sitting still watching a screen.
Yeah.
And then you add social media on top of that.
Yeah.
Because the source notes that 90% of millennials use it, averaging about 3 hours a day.
It's massive.
And the really insidious part is that it creates an illusionary metric for self-worth. Like, we are constantly judging our mundane, behind-the-scenes reality against everyone else's carefully curated highlight reel.
Exactly. And we see the exact same biological hijacking with our diets, too. Junk food is perhaps the most visceral, supernormal stimulus.
I really wanted to ask you about this because the book mentions that the diet industry is worth $70 billion, yet 95% of diets fail.
Yeah.
Why is the failure rate so astronomical? Like, how does a bag of potato chips hack the VTA?
It comes down to how simple carbohydrates and refined sugars interact with those exact same dopamine pathways.
Okay.
Nutritionally hollow foods are engineered to digest incredibly fast. So when you eat them, they cause a rapid, completely unnatural spike in your blood sugar.
Which triggers the hype man.
Yes, it triggers a massive dopamine release. Your brain registers this as a huge survival win.
Right, like we found the ultimate berry burst.
Exactly. But because there is no complex nutrition there, you experience a massive crash shortly after.
Oh, the sugar crash.
Right. And your brain basically panics at the drop in energy and screams for another dopamine hit to fix the crash. So you were just trapped in this anticipation loop.
So whether it's staring at a screen or eating sugar, we're really just chasing that shallow hit.
Because all of these things share a common psychological function. They are mechanisms to escape negative feelings. When you feel anxious about a difficult project at work, you open an app. When you feel lonely, you eat junk food. It numbs the discomfort momentarily, rather than actually solving the underlying friction in your life.
It's almost like we are just walking around in a trance.
We are?
And when we're in that trance, we become kind of blind to the real world. Which brings me to the famous gorilla experiment the author brings up to illustrate this.
Ah, yes. The selective attention test. It perfectly demonstrates cognitive blindness.
I want you to explain this one because it really drives home what we lose when we just stare at our fake eggs all day.
It's a great example. So in the experiment, participants are asked to watch a video of people passing a basketball, and they have to count the exact number of passes.
Which requires intense focus.
Right. So while they're tracking the ball, a person in a full gorilla suit walks right into the middle of the screen.
Just casually.
Yeah. They turn to the camera, beat their chest, and slowly walk off. And when asked later, about half of the people watching completely miss the gorilla.
Half of them don't see a giant gorilla. Why?
Because their cognitive load was entirely maxed out tracking the basketball. The brain literally filters out the gorilla because it just doesn't have the processing power to register it.
And the terrifying takeaway for you, listening right now, is that when you are hypnotized by your screens and your supernormal stimuli, your cognitive load is maxed out.
Yeah.
You are completely missing the vital opportunities, the relationships, and just beautiful moment standing right in front of you. You're literally missing your real life.
Which brings us to the pivotal question of this whole deep dive, really.
Sure.
If rapid task switching destroys our cognitive processing and our biology is inherently vulnerable to these fake eggs, how do we actually rewire the system?
Because we can't trade in our hunter-gatherer brains for a modern upgrade.
Exactly. We have to figure out how to work with our biology instead of constantly fighting it.
Right. And the author argues it all starts with basic, non-negotiable maintenance. The absolute foundation of cognitive function is sleep.
Without adequate sleep, your working memory degrades, your emotional regulation fails, and your ability to resist those dopamine-driven supernormal stimuli just plummets.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate here on behalf of everyone who was up late last night and is currently running on fumes.
Okay, let's hear it.
what does this all mean for my daily cup of coffee? Like, can I just caffeinate my way through a bad night of sleep to get my work done? Because coffee really makes me feel focused.
It creates the illusion of energy,
Mm.
but caffeine is a total trap if you use it as a replacement for sleep.
Oh, man.
To understand why, we have to look at the biology of tiredness. So, throughout the day, your brain builds up a chemical called adenosine,
Okay.
which binds to receptors and makes you feel sleepy. Caffeine doesn't actually give you energy, it simply blocks those adenosine receptors.
Wait, so the tiredness is still there, I just can't feel it.
Precisely. And here's the real catch. Caffeine has a 12-hour quarter life in most people.
A quarter of...
Meaning, if you drink a cup of coffee at noon, at midnight, a quarter of that caffeine is still in your system, actively blocking those receptors.
Wow.
So it suppresses the deep reparative elements of your sleep cycle. You wake up exhausted, the unprocessed adenosine floods your brain, you drink more coffee, and the cycle just continues. You are simply masking your own cognitive decline.
That is brutal. Okay, so step one, protect our sleep so our hype man isn't running the show.
Right.
Step two is ruthless prioritization. The book leans heavily into the Pareto principle, better known as the 80-20 rule, to manage our energy.
Yes. The principle basically states that in many systems, roughly 80% of the effects come from 20% of the causes.
Right.
Microsoft, for example, found that fixing the top 20% of their most reported software bugs actually resolved 80% of the total crashes users were experiencing.
Okay, so how does that apply to the listener's overflowing inbox?
You must apply the 80-20 rule to your own cognitive energy. You need to look at your workload and identify the 20% of your tasks that actually yield 80% of your meaningful results. Then you must ruthlessly protect your best, most rested brain power for those specific tasks.
Okay, but let me challenge this.
Sure.
If I just ignore 80% of my tasks, my boss is going to fire me.
Right.
Like, how does this actually work in a corporate job where everything is labeled urgent and people expect immediate replies?
Well, it's not about ignoring the 80% entirely. It's about strategic energy allocation.
Okay, explain that.
You don't use your peak cognitive hours, which are usually the first few hours of your day, to answer routine emails or sit in passive status meetings.
Oh, I see.
You do those 80% tasks later in the day when your cognitive load is already kind of compromised. You build a fortress around your peak energy for the 20% tasks.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. So how do we actually build that fortress? How do we structure our time so we don't succumb to the chaos of all the open tabs and the buzzing phones?
The author provides a biological pacing framework known as the Pomodoro technique.
I've heard of this.
Yeah, so you define one clear task. You set a timer for 25 minutes. You work with absolute unbroken focus until the timer rings. Then you step away for a 5-minute break.
Okay.
And after 4 cycles, you take a longer 30-minute break.
I've definitely heard of the tomato timer, but why 25 minutes? Like, what is the biological benefit of stopping when you might be on a roll?
Well, 25 minutes is roughly the optimal duration for sustained, intensive cognitive load before your working memory begins to fatigue.
Oh, really?
Yes, and that's when your central nervous system becomes reactive. So by forcing a 5-minute break, you are allowing your brain to literally dump the working memory, reset, and clear the neurochemical buildup.
So you don't burn out.
Exactly. Productivity is not about running like a machine without stopping. A machine that never stops eventually burns out. Sustainable focus requires you to leave what the author calls time cushions in your schedule to decompress.
I really love that concept of time cushions. And part of protecting that space involves how you start and end your day.
Bookending.
Yes. The book talks about bookending, like waking up just 30 minutes earlier, not to immediately check email, but to plan and reflect before the chaos hits.
That's crucial.
But what really fascinated me was the evening routine. The author suggests reviewing important information right before sleep. Why is that?
It leverages the biological mechanism of memory consolidation.
Okay.
While you rest, your brain's night shift catalogs and stores the day's data. And what you expose your brain to right before sleep is often prioritized in that filing system.
Oh, wow. So if I fall asleep doom-scrolling, anxiety-inducing news, my brain essentially spends the night filing away stress.
Exactly. Which brings up another massive energy drain, which is fear.
Yeah.
The author advises starting your day with the tasks you dread the most.
Eating the frog, basically.
Yes, because procrastination is fundamentally a fear-driven response. Think about it. When a task is vague or carries the risk of failure, your brain wants to avoid it. But keeping that task in the back of your mind drains massive amounts of background energy.
Because you're constantly thinking about how you aren't doing it.
Exactly. It's like leaving a really heavy app running in the background of your phone, just draining the battery all day.
Right.
By tackling the scary thing first, even just for 5 minutes, you break the fear barrier and reclaim all that lost energy.
But let's talk about the bad habits we use to avoid those scary tasks. Because when I get stressed, I just instinctively reach for my phone.
We all do.
How do we stop?
The author has a very specific rule based on those dopamine pathways we talked about. You have to swap, not stop.
Because going cold turkey just leaves a vacuum, right?
Exactly. Your VTA is still demanding the dopamine reward. So if you want to quit smoking, you have to actively swap it with chewing gum when the craving hits. If you want to stop doom scrolling when you get stressed at work, you can't just stare at the wall. You have to swap it with like a 10-minute walk around the building. You have to give your brain a new, healthier off-ramp for the stress.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? I mean, we've covered a lot of ground today, from the myth of multitasking and working memory to the VTA, supernormal stimuli, and basically managing your cognitive load.
It's a lot to process.
It is.
Right.
But the final synthesis here is actually incredibly forgiving. Overstimulation isn't a personal failure. It is a biological mismatch.
Right.
You are a human being with a brain built for a quiet savanna trying to survive in a digital Las Vegas.
That's a perfect way to put it. You don't have to be perfect. By being mindful of this mismatch, you can give yourself some grace.
Yeah.
By setting firm boundaries, like muting the non-essential notifications, using a 25-minute timer to respect your cognitive load, and swapping your bad habits, you can stop being a passive consumer of noise.
You can actively choose to walk away from the brightly painted fake eggs. But before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final, slightly mind-bending thought pulled straight from this text.
Okay.
We talked about how your brain catalogs what you review right before bed and how it prioritizes those last waking thoughts overnight.
Right, the memory consolidation.
Well, if our pre-sleep thoughts shape our dreams, and our dreams are basically how our brain processes reality,
Yeah.
what would happen if tonight, instead of staring at a screen or scrolling a feed, you spent your last 5 waking minutes visualizing the solution to your biggest, scariest problem?
Oh, wow.
Like, could you literally hack your own subconscious to do your heavy lifting while you sleep?
I mean, it is a brilliant use of memory consolidation. You are essentially giving your brain an assignment for the night shift.
Give your brain an assignment tonight.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. Turn off those notifications, close a few of those tabs, and go find a little stillness today. You've earned it.